107.5.
It's time for Nico Kleynhans, exclusively on Breakfast with Friends.
And it's welcome back, Mr. Nico. Thank you so much for joining us in studio, and welcome to a brand new year, 2026. Wow, the year definitely waiting and lots of expectation with regard to this year.
Well, it's my 74th year on this planet.
Wow.
It's also the month of my birthday, so everybody's contacting me, all these suppliers saying it's your birthday, come and get a free coffee, free slice of cake, and all that kind of thing.
That's nice.
Last night at 10 o'clock, somebody communicated with us via WhatsApp. And he's a guy who, when he gets into trouble, he finds refuge in our home, and he comes and spends a day and unpacks. 20 past 10, he crossed the road and was murdered.
No, I'm sorry to hear
and that is the context that I want to look at today.
Yeah.
You know, we don't really know what's going to happen.
True story.
And he didn't know when he spoke to us that within 20 minutes, he would cease to exist. And his family didn't know that when he left that home, he would not return again. But that is reality. So when I talk about what's going to happen this year, I don't know.
True story.
And you don't know. But what I can do, and since this is a program on finances, what I want to do is look at what I said a year ago. And if you followed that advice, what would the effect have been today? Where would you have been today? Now that I can do, and it gives you an idea of how planning becomes important in finances. So obviously, if you listen to my advice and you looked at a diversified investment portfolio a year ago, and you took one of those portfolios, you would have had an 18% growth in the value of your investments.
Wow.
That's a diversified portfolio.
Yeah.
It's a safe portfolio.
Yes.
Your money would have been worth 18% more today than they were worth a year ago.
Nice.
Now, if you didn't want to believe me, and instead you wanted a higher risk, and you then went into an all-share index 12 months ago, you would have had 41% more money today than you had 12 months ago. If you didn't trust that and you went to the bank instead, the bank would have given you 7% more money, on which you would have to pay tax.
Of course.
And if you went to a 30-day call account, you would have 8% more money.
Which is not really beating inflation.
No, it doesn't. It beats inflation, but it's not going to make you wealthy.
Yeah.
Now, if you were listening from the USA, and I do have listeners listening from the USA, and you invested in that country, you would have had 5% more money. So we've really got to say thank you to President Trump. Because the Americans have realized that that's not the place to invest.
So they're investing their dollars into our economy.
They invest outside, and we get a lot of that money. And that's why our stock exchange goes up in price.
Oh, wow.
Because these dollars boost, and it's the supply and demand. It's not always value, it's supply and demand.
Yeah.
So our stock exchange is performing very well. But supposing you didn't want to even invest in the stock exchange, and you only wanted to buy gold coins.
Okay.
Well, then today you would have had 73% more money than you would have had a year ago.
What?
Now, I'm not saying that you must go and buy gold.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not saying you must go and buy shares. I'm saying that's what would have happened if you invested a year ago.
Okay.
What I am saying is whatever you do, there has to be diversification in your investments. So you've got to have some stocks and shares. You've got to have some property. You've got to have some gold. And you've got to have some business interests. And it is the combination of that that gives you the security that you want to have in your portfolio. So some are going to get spectacular growth. Some are not going to be as spectacular, but it is the combination that's going to beat inflation, which is running at about 3% right now. So if you're wanting to make sure that you're not one of the 94% of South Africans who are going to retire without enough pension, the problem is the day you retire, you will have enough. But you're not going to have enough when you get to 90 years old.
Exactly.
And that's where most of us make our mistakes. Yeah. We're worried about how much money we're going to have when we are 90. And we don't take into account that inflation continues from the day we are 65 to when we are 70, to when we are 75, to when we are 80, to when we are 85, to when we are 90.
That's it.
I remember fuel being 8 cents a liter.
Yeah.
It's not 8 cents a liter anymore. So, folks, when we're talking about finances, talk to a certified financial planner. There are a few thousand of them in South Africa. They do know what they're doing. They don't have 2 weeks of book training. They've studied for 6 or 7 years. They've written exams. They've done the internship. They do understand what they're doing, and they do know how to put portfolios together. Now, what is the big unknown for this year? And that is the election that is coming up.
That's
now,
right.
You will know that I'm hostile towards politicians. I have always been hostile. That was why I was able to say to security police, I'm not going to obey your laws. And yes, there's a price you pay for that. But I've always been hostile. That young man who got murdered should not have been murdered.
True story.
Because the gang leader in that street got murdered a week ago. The 2 lieutenants that are now fighting for power have turned that street into a war zone. The authorities know that. They should have done something about it. If I know who those people are, they know who those people are. They could have dealt with it when the first murder happened. So instead, another 5, 10, 15 young men are going to die before somebody does something. That's why I'm angry about politicians. Anyway, so what is the election all about? We are voting for leaders of 44 district municipalities, 8 metropolitan municipalities, and 205 local municipalities. We will get 3 votes. We do not have to vote for the same party in each one of those 3 votes. It's up to you how much effort you want to put into your votes. Voters are confused by the 3-vote system, and I assume this radio station will bring on political parties to explain the process. They certainly need to do so. They can't only have one party coming to explain what's happening. The ANC is fighting for its life. In the last elections that I'm talking about now, they got 45% of the vote. Yeah. That was in 2021. And they're likely to get less. Now, Ramaphosa decides on the date of this election. He can decide in November this year if he wants to. And he will choose a date that he thinks gives his party the best choice. So that's where the ANC is. The DA needs to get its house in order. They are fighting themselves. They're taking themselves to court.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How do you do that? How do you expect that to happen and then not lose the confidence of voters? So while I have very high regard for our local mayor and I have very high regard for our local premier, I do know where the fights are happening, and they need to stop using the system to fight each other to get rid of those people they don't like within their own party. It's going to catch up. Even the most silly supporter is going to pick up there's something is wrong, and it's going to affect. And then smaller parties, some of them are so small they can't really make a difference. They need to look at some kind of working together, because some of these parties have really got good leadership, have got good ideas, and they need to work in such a way that their message gets out there. So whatever happens, this is going to be an exciting year. On the economic front, yes, we are going to see further growth, certainly a multiple of inflation. As for the politics, this election is going to help kill off some of the dead wood, and we do need that to happen so that we can make progress. But I wish you well, and I look forward to seeing what happens for this particular year.
Thank you, Nico Kleynhans.